that experience is shared by your faculty as well as other students. We would all like to not be doing it this way, even if there are some parts of this we might retain, but we certainly, I don't want to be doing this all the time. I miss seeing you guys in the studio and talking to you that way. And so this just is an added level of stress that we would all like to see go away. Unfortunately, we don't have any control over that. So what I am trying to do is to make our deadlines kind of soft deadlines or benchmarks, that kind of thing, and that but still give you something meaningful. So when we hopefully, and you'd have to be the judge of that, I can certainly listen to your comments back of either privately or as we do this as a group. But I'm certainly interested in your comments of how we can make this the best that we can in given the circumstances that we are in. And so anyway, the deadlines are soft ones. But to make it meaningful, at the very end of the semester, we still want to have some things accomplished. And along the way, part of that is I guess just continuing to try and stay in contact with one another. I think that's maybe the best thing that we do is that we do that. I think that the ideas that we can possibly share with one another, talk about, whether it's about our design or celebrating birthdays or any number of other things that we do, I think is a good thing. The talks that we have about design, I think I hope you feel that there's some meaningful dialogue there that happens. You know, hearing your classmates' ideas and how we talk about it, and that's valuable going forward. I think the other part of the stress, though, is that this is not the only class you're doing this with. You're doing some version of this with all of your classes, and that gets to be stressful. There's I don't know any other way to say it. It's something that the best that you can do is to continue like you have with this class, is to continue to join and participate with it to the best of your ability. There's, like we even have when we in class, there are some days where we're more up for it than others. I get that. But I think that, you know, continuing to try the best that we can to make that happen is always a good thing. I believe that the time management aspect of this is even more crucial. So again, you have not only what we're doing for this class, but all of your other classes, and you know, and pretty much staying at home 24 hours a day, every day of the week, and you don't get to do any of the other things that you might normally do, perhaps to relieve any kind of stress. The other things that I do, because I have to stay home, you know, I play a little music. I call it music, maybe nobody else does, but I try to do that a little bit. You know, play some games. I try to get outside as much as I can. You know, now the weather is kind of calming down for that to be a good thing. If it's just in your backyard, you know, go for a walk around the block. If you have I don't know how many cats really want to walk with this. They want to walk their own versions, but then if you have dogs, walking your dog seems to be a good thing to do. But as much as you can do those kinds of things, that will be helpful. And then try to take, back to this time management thing, is to maybe even more purposefully plan out your week. Like when you have things that you're going to be doing, and plan in there some time when you're going to take some time for yourself, whether, again, that's going for a walk around the block or whatever it is. But try to do that as much as you can. So I wanted to just say a little bit about that as we start here. I think I'm going to give you guys a choice again. Would you like to go around and get a brief update from everyone? Or would you like to ask specific questions, or what would you like to do? I shouldn't have asked it that way. How many of you would, with those two choices in mind, how many of you would like to go around and get a brief update from everybody? Oh, okay. So how many of you would like to just have specific questions? Okay. And so I saw some non-voters there, or else your hand didn't get into the screen. So I'm going to try that one more time. Make sure you see your hand on one of the other. How many would like to do an update? How many of you would like to do specific questions? Okay, let's go with specific questions. Now, before we do that,
I'm torn with both.
I'm torn with both, and we can certainly. Why don't we do questions first, and then those that are ready to get back to their life off the screen here, or work on their project, you'll be free to go. And those that want to do more, maybe in-depth update, we can stay on and do that. Okay. Now let me do one thing, because Jay is still having trouble logging on. So let me try and send him a message.
I think sometimes it helps me when I hear somebody else has a question, because I might have had that question and just forgotten about it, or it might bring up another question that I had.
Well, you know, I tend to learn that way myself, but I don't know if everyone does. And so that's why I'm trying to, if at all possible, make this work for all of us. Okay, so all right. All right, so how about let's start with questions. Who has one? You want to get the ball rolling? Anyone?
I've got a question.
Okay, perfect.
Can you hear me all right?
Maybe be a little closer to your computer.
Well, because I'm doing it with my headset.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I'll try to speak a little louder.
There we go.
And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
I'm going to try to do that.
Oh, let me see if I set that up for us. I think I did. Yes, I did. Okay.
All right. So can you see my InDesign document?
Yes.
Okay. So I know in the on the assignment page, there's some tips about how to fix this right here using the, what is it, optical margin alignment.
Yes.
Is there any way to get that to apply to only one small section? Because when I do that, it does that for the entire document.
It does it for the whole document?
Yeah.
That's unusual.
So here, I can show you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's somewhere in story, right?
Yes. So are you clicking that first paragraph?
I'll do that, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then,
So now we're in that paragraph.
where is story again? I forgot.
Under type.
Type. And then,
And
oh, here we go.
here we go.
Okay, so I'm clicked in this paragraph.
Yes.
Oh, wait a second. Wait, I think it just fixed itself. Like I think maybe I wasn't clicking in it like previously. Okay, so that answers that basically.
Okay, but it's also, you know, you've got a problem, it's not working, and all of a sudden you show someone else, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have another question also.
Well, let's stay there for 1 second.
Okay.
So this is a really nice application of the idea of diminuendo. The only thing that I would say about it is that the initial letter is both larger and in color. Okay, so, and it might also be in bold, I'm unsure. So what I would suggest if you make it in color is that, and since it is in color, so color by itself adds a level of emphasis. Making something larger by itself adds a level of emphasis. So what you've done is put two things together that, by it's exaggerating the emphasis. So you can do that, but now what we need to do is bring up the level of the next few words a little bit as well. So one possibility is that all of the phrase, "it's a peculiar apparatus," is in red.
Okay, that'd be cool.
Okay, so you could try that. So you understand why I'm saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we could go the other direction, and that is only the initial letter is in red, but it's either not that big or it's not bigger at all. It's just in bold. So in other words, you're adding the other treatment on the I, and the opening quotes just isn't as strong.
Okay.
Okay, I think though that my first suggestion there, I think is going to give you a better result. My other comment is going to be that you've made the quotation marks larger as well.
Yeah.
So which is always kind of a cool thing to do with punctuation. So you can treat punctuation marks, whether it's quotation marks or an exclamation point or a question mark, doesn't matter what the punctuation is, but treating it also as a graphic image, which is essentially what's going on here. It's a large punctuation mark, but it's also acting like a graphic.
I think I kind of want to make those a bit smaller.
I wouldn't make it, I
But,
don't want to be smaller and then big again. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So you don't want the quotation marks to be smaller, then go up to the large I and then back down again. So I'm saying that that's a good thing that you've done here. But another way to say it is that the quotation marks are now also acting like a graphic symbol or image in addition to being punctuation. It's a fun little trick to do, and you can do that any place. It doesn't have to be just within diminuendo.
Okay.
Okay.
And so for my next, this one is actually more about the story,
Okay.
like the Word document.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of letters, and some of them are about, real life events, but then for Devil in America, there's a lot of letters that talk about historical events, and then there's some interjections from, I guess, the author's father, and I'm wondering if those are supposed to be there.
Yes.
Okay.
They're part of his style of writing. But now your question is, well, how do I treat them?
Yeah, because it opens, the first is like 1955, and if I were to put, the drop cap in the number, it might look a little strange.
I agree. Yeah. This is a great question. So what it's bringing about here is that we have different kinds of information. On this page, we have the title of the story. We have the byline for the author. We have this diminuendo going on, and we have this unusual thing that's specific to this author on this story with the dates. In this case, we're seeing 1955. Now, we might see some other things on the bottom of the page, like the folio information, or the page number in this case. So those are each of those things is a different kind of information, right?
Right.
So the general rule of thumb is treat different kinds of information differently. So right now, the 1955 is treated the same as the regular text. And that's one of the reasons why it's a bit confusing. So we have to treat it not like anything else on the page. The same would be true as the page number at the bottom of the page, that it is different kind of information. Therefore, it shouldn't be the same as the text. So
Okay.
This leads us to the general thing about type, in that it is always a better decision to pick a typeface that has several fonts to choose from, like bold, semi-bold, italics, metallic bold, all of those, right? Because then
Yeah.
we can stay within the same type family and treat different information differently by using fonts of that family.
Okay.
Okay, so an example here, I don't know what this would look like, but let's say 1955 is in metallic light, and
I
perhaps,
might need to find a better typeface, and I was probably going to do that later down on the line because
uh-huh,
I'm not. Oh wait, here we go.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so it's got some options.
yeah, you
I
do. I
wanted to
think
stick with this one.
Minion is a good typeface to work with. Okay, and I just arbitrarily said the one I said. It doesn't mean it has to be that one, but
Right.
it's an example of another font within this family of Minion. And you have one on your computer that gives you some variety. Now, the other way that's a nice thing to work with is on unusual or unique things is to play with either placement or letter spacing. So in this case, it might be tracked out. It might also be treated in a way that, let's say it's within a box, so it's like a graphic.
Hmm.
So let's say we make a light gray box that's behind the 1955, and the 1955 is also letter spaced out a little bit. So now what we're doing, and by him putting 1955 here, he's giving kind of, it's almost a chapter name, but it's not a chapter, but it's like that. It's certainly some kind of label on this portion of the story. And then we have another label on another portion of the story. Okay,
Right.
so by thinking of it that way, then I'm inclined to think that the 1955 reversed out of a box of color, whether it's gray or something, might be a good way to go. But you can certainly look at those variations. So letter spaced out, italics version or lighter version, or this out of a box. Any of those things is going to be, on the one hand, just simply treating it differently because it is a different kind of information. Then we get to the finer point of this of where does it fall in the hierarchy of all of the information on the page. So again, we're trying to find the hierarchy between the title of the story, the byline, the diminuendo that starts the story, the folio page number, and 1955. So I
Okay.
forgot to count those off. I've got what, maybe 6 different things there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, counting the text itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And should that be applied throughout the story, just
Yeah.
to make it consistent?
Excellent. Yes. So then it's consistent.
Okay.
So you are setting up what we're going to call a house style. So we're going to, and
Okay.
so what we would do is on the 1955, you're going to, on this page, play around with what look you like, and then how that look fits in with the overall hierarchy. And then you're going to say, okay, that's the one I want. Then you're going to turn that into a character style. And so then on all of the other years, let's say one of the other years is 1962, you highlight 1962, you go to character styles where you save that style and apply it. So with character styles, it gets only applied to what you have highlighted. With paragraph styles, you don't highlight anything, you just simply click within the paragraph.
Right.
Okay. Now, I would
Okay.
expect that today we would have a number of questions on paragraph styles and character styles, so I kind of snuck in a little bit of it there.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Sure.
I'm gonna. Those were the only questions that I had, so
Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go ahead and unshare screen if I can.
Okay. Thanks, Noah.
Thank you.
Okay. Who'd like to go next?
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
So mine is kind of simple because I don't have out the computer. So using to copy and like place the text instead of copy and place. Like I can't say that. And how do you do the copy and place? And how that different than
How do you do it?
Otherwise.
We're doing place.
yeah.
Place command. So you choose place. You must have the text saved as something. So in this, go ahead.
And so you should save it, so like copy it and save it as like a different document.
Well, I may have confused this there. Let me try that again. So you have the Word documents that I supplied you guys to pick from. So if you were doing that, so you need to just, after you pick them, move the 5 that you're going to use onto your laptop. That's going to be the easiest way to do this. So then they're in a folder, probably that's called the name of this assignment, where you keep all the parts that are related to it. Then you go into InDesign and choose the place command, and then you're going to, your computer is in fact now asking you, well, what do you want me to place? So then you just navigate to that folder that contains the story, select that story, and say okay, and then it will bring it in.
What is the place command? Is it
Where is it?
like what is it the control and what the place command?
Hang on, I'll share my screen. Oh, I forgot to have InDesign open for us. So we'll do 3 here. We'll do vertical. Okay, so here we are, and oh, I forgot to hit facing pages, but I guess. Okay, so I will do it this way. Or no, I don't. Okay, here we go. So again, we're not going to place any text up here that we want only on one page on the master pages, so we want to be down here. So I'm on page 1, and I'm going to take my text tool and make a text box. And then it's blinking in there waiting for me to either paste or place. And I've been suggesting to us that the place command is the much better way to go in the long run. So we're going to go over here under File and go to Place. And then now is the time where, of course, we're looking for, well, what do you want to place? So I look and I find the story that you want to place. So I'm just going to click on that, and then it's going to put it in.
If it's like a long story, will it place the entire story in that text box, or how?
You were breaking up there a little bit. Were you talking about a long story? What happens?
So if it's a long story and has like multiple pages, how will we put that in?
I'm not sure I'm hearing the whole thing, but I believe I'm going to guess that you want to know what happens with a longer story. So let me do that again. We're going to do place, and
Now, you did 3 columns. Why did you choose 3 columns when in the columns?
Because the 3 column, it's normally better to have that to work with. But I just want to, let's see, let me find some text here. Where do I have some text?
Because I had questions about just the page setup, because that's where I kind of got stuck earlier when I was looking at the dimensions on the directions, and then it was like saying 396 points times 612, and I didn't know how to figure up which page layout to do for that.
Yeah, let me come back.
Okay.
Let me finish this first.
All
So,
right.
so here's one of your stories. So I've just selected this story. I say open, and here it is. So it goes down to this, but I'm not seeing the entire story. And I know that because in the lower right-hand corner, I see this red box. So I'm going to click there, go to page 2, and click it there. And again, it'll go down. And I'm still not seeing the whole story, so I click, and I'm going to go to the top of the next page, in this case, and unload it there. Now, there's we could have some auto-threading options turned on here that when I click at the beginning, it'll thread through the entire document. I've opted to not start that assignment with you here unless you've done some things with InDesign before and know how to use that. If you do, then go ahead and do that. But I'm doing it this way for you guys on this first one because I think it's going to make you aware of some things that otherwise you might not. So at any rate, I do this until I no longer see the red plus sign in the bottom. Nathan, did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Because I was kind of guessing there if that was the question. All right. So the idea behind the 3-column layout is that any uneven number is going to give you more options for how you create the layout. So at the moment, I'm not dealing with the golden section or the margins or anything. I'm only going to deal with the 3 columns. So I'm already in here, and it doesn't have 3 columns. It's got 1 column. So to change that, I need to go under Layout, under File, and come down to Document Setup. And in there, I can say the where am I at? I can't find it. There we go. Why am I not finding it here? Oh, that's why. Okay, sorry. Let's do this again. All right, so I want to change this from 1 column to 3 columns or whatever it is I want to do. And I'm already started the design. So I want to go to Layout, Margins and Columns. And in there, I can say the number of columns that I want to change it to. So in this case, I want to change it from 1 to 3. I'm going to OK that. So now I have 3 columns on this page because I did it while I was on page 1. If I go to another page, you can see that it hasn't changed. So this kind of emphasizes the main thing that anything that you want to apply to the whole document, do it on the master pages. So I'm going to the master page. I'm going to do this again now. Layout, Margins, and Columns, and say 3. And I'm on the left-hand margin. So when I OK this, I'm on the left-hand page, And so it's only going to show up 3 columns on the left-hand page. The right-hand page I haven't changed yet. So on the right-hand master page, I would do the same thing, go to margins and columns, and change it to 3, and I have it. Now, your other part of your question is, why would I do this? And the reason is that on certain pages, to allow for graphics, to allow for any number of other things, I want a white space, then I may want to just use 2 of those columns. So that now I can have either a graphic over here, or I have a different kind of information over here. And I can go across these 2 columns. I could have it spread across these 2 columns. In some cases, I might have it just over 1, or again, I could have it across all 3. So the point is, I have options now where I don't over here. Okay?
Okay.
All right. How about another question?
So, so earlier today, I had gone in and did the spell check on my on the story, and now getting ready to import it into InDesign. So you said it's the 8.5 by, or well, like the standard kind of upright page. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to get caught up.
Okay, we'll definitely look back at the recordings from previous sessions. Those should get you up to speed with where everyone else is. That would be my first suggestion. But
Yeah.
specifically on that question, we want to avoid defaults. So defaults meaning, you know, when we open up the type that you've put in there, it's going to have a default leading amount. So I've given you a rule of thumb to change that. Go to the next whole even number. And the page size, there are default page sizes as well. And they are simply a place to begin with. If the program doesn't have a default setting, it doesn't know what to do. It won't be able to open anything up to show you to go the next step. So that's why it has default settings. As a designer, you don't want the default settings because those are average. Those are what everything looks like. You're trying to create a designed thing. So you're looking for uniqueness. Now you want that uniqueness to be meaningful, meaning that it either looks better or it works better. One of the two, and ideally, if a good design is both. It looks good and it works better. So works better on this kind of assignment means it is easier to read. That's what works better means here. And then looks better, you know, that it looks better. But works better for typography means that it is easier to read. Okay. So the other side to that question on the page size is that we have standard pieces of paper the way it comes to us to print to. And so we're not going to be able to print this assignment this semester. So I'm asking you guys to hang on to your PDF files. And when we finally get back to school, then you'll be able to print. Printing a book is a whole nother aspect of this assignment normally. It is equally learning something about InDesign, something about typography, as well as how do you print and bind a book. So all those 4 major areas are a part of this assignment. We are only going to be able to talk about and practice the typography aspect of it and the introduction to InDesign page layout. We're not going to be able to print. We're not going to be able to bind. We will be able to do that later. So how this relates to the page size is this. Paper typically comes in standard page sizes. And we talked about this a little bit with our Illustrator assignments, where the majority of time, like 90-some% of the time, we should not be printing our designs to the same size piece of paper as our artboard. The artboard typically is smaller than the piece of paper we're printing to, because we're printing with crop marks and then going to trim it later, because we want some images, colors, shapes to bleed. For a book, we may have things that bleed, but it's more because of the way a book is assembled. We have many pages stacked up together, and because of the way they are assembled, there's something called paper creep. And you can imitate this easily by just taking two pieces of paper, folding it in half, and you'll notice that the ones that form the closest to the center, they don't come out as far. Or, so, I'm sorry, the ones that are in the center come out further than the ones on the outside of that sandwich. So if I have these and fold them in, let me change this. Okay, so if I take these papers and fold them in half, and if I was really neat with it and exactly folded them, I will notice that the paper that's on the outside of that sandwich doesn't come out even with the other one. And the more pages that we have stacked up, that idea is more exaggerated. We'll call this a signature, but the effect of it is paper creep. The ones on the inside don't creep out as far, or you could think of it as the ones on the inside creep out further. So back to the page size thing again. We need to trim this. So it's not necessarily because of images that are bleeding, it's because that a book has paper creep in the end. So we want the pages to be evenly cut in the end. Therefore, we're printing to a piece of paper that is larger than the book that we want in the end. Now, without actually being there in person so we could look at that together, I know that's possibly a difficult thing to understand what I'm talking about. So just go with me on this right now, that we want to, wherever you see a default setting for something, try to customize it. Try to create a unique version of it. In this case, if we were printing to a standard page size, which is 8.5 by 11 turned horizontally, our end book, when it's finished and all put together, shouldn't be 8.5 by 11 turned horizontally. It should be something smaller because we're going to trim it. Okay? And again, the simple answer to all that, because I know that that's difficult to understand without us actually looking at it together. But you can do a couple things. One is I have links to all that stuff on our assignment page, so you could look at it there. The other thing is to just go with me as a leap of faith right now, and that don't go with standard or default settings. Don't go with default settings. Okay? Gavin? You got two computers going. There we go. But unmute one of you. Okay.
So for paper size again, is it okay to have it smaller than 8.5 by 11?
Yes.
Okay.
Then you'll have a thicker book, right? Right?
Yeah. Okay. Because like I wanted to do my book in like half a letter size.
Yes.
Okay. Like this size.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And also for the stories. For one of them, it has like these asterisks in them. I don't think they're part of the story, so I can take those out, right?
What's the story?
What is it? What is it? The Spider Artist.
Let's look at that.
I was gonna ask the same question because it's in there.
Okay, so let's see. Right here?
Yes.
Yes, you can take those out.
Okay. And then also for what's the other one that we're working on? In Cambodian embassy, it has like 0 through 21, 0 through 18. Yeah. Like those right there.
These right here? Those are labels, kind of like the 1959 one is. So
So they're part of the story.
they are part of the story. And so it's another way of labeling that section.
Okay.
Okay.
The stories that I picked have unusual, some of them, not all, have some unusual or unique things. They're very contemporary writing. And that's part of it. Now, as long as we're looking at this, and then you know that it's there, you want to try and find, well, what's the meaning of it? And so my clue for you is it's like a label. It's like a name of a chapter kind of thing. But then we look at it in terms of, well, what, I guess with that in mind, then how you treat it will influence how the audience reads it. So that's true for this little goofball thing here, as well as all of the rest of the words. The title of it, the folio information, and so forth, every single thing. So that's one way of why we think about how we treat it. So in this case, one of the things that we look at is the dash. So if that dash remains as a hyphen, it means one thing. If that is an incorrect dash there and it's supposed to be an end dash, that means something quite different, right? So this is either going to be read as 022, or it's going to be read as 02, hyphenated word. So you have to you have to read the story, take all your clues for any of these things from the stories themselves. And then in some cases, well, actually, I guess I could say in every case, the typographer ends up having an impact on how we understand what the story means. That's true, right? If we read this in Helvetica, it's going to come across differently than if we have that same story, everything else remaining equal, and it's not in Helvetica, but it's written in, I don't know, German. And then we go further into it, like, well, where we place emphasis, where we de-emphasize some things, where we break it, where we do any of those other parts. Okay, so this is just a minute example, an unusual example of that. And the dash is even further, intricate. Okay,
Yeah.
does that help you there?
It does.
Okay.
And also for one of the other also for the Spider Artist again, there are some words but they're like in quotes. I was thinking about changing them, but at the same time, I think they're like just part of like how the author is like saying that they talk, because it's like instead of saying no is not, but at the same time it looks really weird. And also one is like ye, and it says ye a whole bunch of times, like ye ye.
Yeah.
So like
He's trying to make a sound. It's
okay.
It's a sound. It's like the spoken word. It's like
Okay.
yeah, it's that kind of idea. He wants
Well,
us to not only read the word, but to hear the sound.
Okay.
we can't change any, I mean, we can't change anything that's in a quote anyways.
Correct.
Like even if it's misspelled because it's a quote, right?
That is
Or at
a
least
great question. That is a great
because it's a quote. So from what I understand from like proofreading before, like if it's a quote and it's like somebody said something, because it could be also like a manner of speech or like a different dialect or accent,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely true. What you do, let's put this in realistic terms here. Let's say that you are working for a publishing house and you are confronted with something that's in a quotation, but it is misspelled. And this is the first run through. You would mark those things down as questions. You would ask the editor, who in turn would ask the author, or if you have direct line to the author, you would ask them. These are some things I wanted to make sure that this was purposeful, that you did this. The way I'm reading it, I think it is, but I want to check it out. And they say, yep, I want that person, that character in the story to have a particular personality. That's why I've misspelled it. It's a colloquial expression or something
That's
like that.
yeah, that's what I was trying to, the word I was looking for.
Yeah, well, it's a hard word for me to say, but you know, it's specific to that character or a region or something like that. Yeah. But I guess my point here is, you would always ask that question. And so in my case, in our case here, I'm playing the role of your editor. I'm also playing your role. I have a double role in this play. I'm playing an editor and I'm also playing the author. And so I'm telling you that anything in quotation marks like that is meant to be.
I have a question
What
too.
about-
Oh, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Gavin.
It's good.
No, it's okay. I might take a while.
Okay. Also for another one, and a bruise the size and shape of a door handle. There's phrasing which is really weird. I think it's where Margot asks her if she's never snuck in before. It's like, you're not sneaked in before, and it's like really weird phrasing. And
It
I
is.
just, in quotations, I want to change it so bad because it's just really weird phrasing.
Right. And this is an example of the same kind of thing we were just talking about. So, and sometimes what's also very interesting to find sometimes is something that sounds weird to us because we don't speak that way, but actually it's grammatically correct the way they have it. I'm not saying that necessarily this is an example of that, but that does occur. And so what we find out about ourselves is that we have colloquial mannerisms and ways of speech. Also, it's not just somebody else has them, that we have them. You know, I'm sure you've noticed different ones that I have. When they're just different little habits, and we all have them. And so when we see them in print, it tends to draw our attention to them. And sometimes we feel it's incorrect because it's not the way we speak. And then we find out that, oh, well, the way I'm speaking is actually grammatically incorrect, or something along those lines. That's always a surprise. And you refuse to believe it. But that can happen too. So let's just, on this case, for our examples here, we're going to go with the idea that anything in quotation marks is correct.
Okay.
For the
And also,
for the purposes of our story, I should say. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring this up too because since we're on this topic, this kind of also applies to one of the stories. The a good man is hard to find, because there are some words, that are kind of like, I can see that as being like, the colloquial terms as we've been talking about. So I wound up correcting them, but I wasn't sure because at first I didn't know if we were allowed to keep those or not. Like in one case, when the little boy in that story, and he's asking like one of the henchman to the Misfits, and he's like, "What you gonna do with the gun?" Like hearing the word "whatcha" and it's spelled exactly as how it would sound. And
Yes,
so I wasn't sure if that was something you would fix in that situation, or if that's something you would be okay to keep.
you keep,
Because
you keep.
okay.
So this is,
It's like part of the character, right?
yes,
Because it's like that's how the
Because
characters.
that's how the
It's
character comes
conversation.
in, also because of like that time they're in, and I wasn't sure if that's one of those words where like you should edit, just to correct or grammatically speaking, or if that's something you could keep because that's a part of like back then on how they would speak.
it's that. And contemporary, these are all contemporary authors. And a part of a trend in contemporary writing is to, it's an alliteration. It's trying to, the way the words are spelled to actually hear their sound. And it's especially true when they are words that are meant to be spoken by a character so that we can get a sense of how they speak. Therefore, we have a bigger, more complete picture of who this character is. I would say that to make your life a little easier here, I think that all of those things you should keep. There are those of you that are in the Chief Seattle class of doing that one at the same time that we're doing this, that one, I typed that in without making corrections. I didn't find it online. I just typed it in. So there are misspellings in there that you need to correct. And that may be influencing why you're thinking that way on this one. On these, I didn't type them in all myself. And they were from the New York Times bestseller list one. So we're going to err on the side that all of those things in there are there because of this character development idea. Okay, so you don't have to be worried about those kind of errors in here as much. Now you might and absolutely should be looking at things like correct use of dashes, because that's a very common thing that even if it was done originally in the correct way, that because of the computer changing things back and forth, and it's gone through several different computers, that dash could very well be not the correct one and defaulted to hyphens on everything. That could very well happen to you, but not the words themselves. Clara, how are we doing over there? Tell me what your thoughts are.
I'm doing good. I'm just like messing around with everything and like finding different themes for like each story.
Okay.
But yeah. And I've been like spacing stuff out too because like everything was like kind of clumped together. So I'm like starting to do that now and it looks like a lot better.
Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah. So more leading, perhaps, opening the tracking by a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very good. Pizza, how are you doing?
I just had the same, I wanted to ask the same questions about like what we can change or what we have to like look for, like grammar problems or something, but like you answered those questions, so I'm fine.
Okay.
So I think I'll start because I haven't really started it because I was waiting for you to like answer these questions, so I'm just gonna start it.
Okay. So
I
I'm
still have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hudson. Go ahead.
It's okay. So I do have a question about, and I know that I can do this because I know it's been done before. I did it with in typography before, and I couldn't remember how to do it. But so you showed us last time how to put the page numbers in there, which I did through the master pages. But I have my title page, my after that I have my like the I have one blank page on the inside, and then I have another one reserved for the title page from the one on the inside, the copyright page, and then the reserved area for the table of contents, and then another blank page, and then I start my first story. All those other pages, I don't want them to have numbers, and I know that there's a way to have those not have numbers, but I don't remember how.
Oh, okay. So it's where you go in. Well, let's see. Let's try to do it this way.
Because I want to start it on the where
You
the
want one to start on your first chapter, on your first story page, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm wanting to do.
Gavin, do you want to take that?
No, because I was trying to help her with it earlier, and I couldn't.
Yeah. We tried it earlier and we couldn't figure it out.
Okay, well, let's see if we can do that. I need there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna go up here.
As page one numbered as page one, but like she wants like the first where the first story starts to be page one instead.
Yeah, so we can do it a couple different ways. Let's say that this page 1, 2, and 3 are that we call it front matter. So the table of contents and so forth. So the front matter we don't want numbered, but we do want page numbers to begin on page, what is the 5th page in. And there's two ways that you can have numbering go. You can say this 5th page in fact, is the first place that we see a page number, and it's number 5. On the other hand, we could have that's the first place we see a page number, and it's number 1. Normally speaking, the way you number pages in a book is the way I first described. This is the 5th page in. It's the first place I see a page number, but it's the 5th page in. So the page number is, in fact, number 5. That's the normal way of doing it, even though we don't see page numbers on the front matter. But the other...
So do we want to have it start there with whatever number, and since you're saying it's the normal way, but how do I delete them, the other ones, so
yeah,
that they're not visible?
I'm about to show you.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Now, but we still have another option, and that is we might number the front matter. Those pages are numbered, but numbered according to a different style of numbering. And then we have the stories numbered by a different style. So, in other words, Roman numerals versus Arabic numerals. You know, you can do that as well. Okay.
Well, we don't want that on like the title page, do we? Like
it's just a different way of approaching it. That's all. So I tend to like, unless there's a lot of front matter, I tend to, my personal preference, which really means nothing, it's just my preference, is to have no numbers on the front matter, and that the stories begin with whatever page it is. So in my example,
kind of what I want, just because I feel like it looks cleaner.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see if we can do this. So we're going to go. I'm going to go to these master pages first. So I have one set of masters, the A masters, and I'm on the right-hand page, and I'm going to go to type, insert special character, markers. Oh, whoops, sorry. You have to have a text box. So here's my text box, and type, insert special character, markers, current page number. Okay, so there it is. And then it's going to continue from there, and we can see the A's showing up on all these all the way down. Now, the other part of this, and I believe it's under document setup, but I always have to look. Nope.
There was under the the properties under pages, there was something called numbering and section options, but I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, we'd have to create different sections. And we can also create another master. We can apply the B masters, let's say, to the front, front matter, and the A master to the rest of the story. And that's an easy fix, but there's another option here that I'm trying to look for, and I just am having trouble finding. Shoot.
I don't see an easy fix on any of
What's that?
this. I was just saying, I don't see an easy fix to any of this. But that's just me. I'm trying to be, optimistic about it. It's just all so new still. Yeah.
Well, there's several ways to do this. So I can't find that one, so I'm going to show you the easy fix. So right now we have one A master, so we're going to create a new master called B. We say okay. So the A masters we already have applied to everything, and it has page numbers on it, right? The B master doesn't. So I'm just going to drag and drop it on these pages. And now when I go to page 1, there is no page number on it, right? And same with page 2 and page 3 and page 4. But now I get to page 5, and there's our page numbering beginning with number 5. So again, that's the easiest way to do it, is just to make another master where one of the masters doesn't have numbers on it and the other one does. Then you just drag and drop it on the page numbers you want that to apply to. But there's another way which I can't seem to locate, and I will locate that for us and put it out there, because with that one, you can say right in there, page numbering begins on page 5 with the number 1, that kind of thing. And I just need to locate it, and I'm not finding it easily.
No worries, that helps a lot, because I was just trying to fix it. And then I was gonna ask too, because I don't remember, but like the back matter, that does not contain, or I don't need to contain the page numbers in there either.
Right, that's another way. And again, sometimes if it's a lot of back matter, then they are now numbered in a different way. Let's say we have an extensive bibliography or index, and since there's many pages to it, then yes, we would want to number them. You're not going to have that here. The only back matter that you're going to have in this is the colophon. And so I haven't talked about that yet. I think it's a little premature to begin talking about it. But at any rate, you'll have that special kind of page at the end of the book. As a brief explanation of what a colophon is, it's like the production notes. So it's at the end of the book. In a magazine, it's at the front. Okay, let me, what other questions have we got out there? Salma, how are we doing?
Sorry, it's going good.
Going good? Oh, okay. I'd like to hear that. Paula, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just having like small little issues with like little things, like how to fix the margins, which you answered. And I was just also wondering how to edit all the text all at once. And then Jasmine just answered me and said that you do a triple click. But my problem with that is that when I did the triple click, it would only select a few pages and then it would stop selecting after that. So I was just kind of wondering how to do like the entire thing, or do I have to do it in increments?
what you, I believe the thing here, so you want to select just the whole paragraph, is that it?
I was trying to do like Gavin just said Control plus A if I want to do the whole thing.
Oh yeah, so Command A, so that's going to be true for anything, not just in InDesign. That's like
Okay.
a copy paste kind of command. It's universal.
Okay.
Okay. Since this is the, we had a couple, or at least one question last time also about key commands. And remember that in your menu at the, just to the right, so I need to share a screen. So remember, when you see any of these words, these little symbols on the right, those are your key commands. So for tabs, you know, since I'm on that, it's Shift, Command, T. The character window is Command, T. So, and you want to learn those as quickly as you can. Okay, so the one that Gavin just gave you, the Select All one, is a good one. And it works everywhere, not just InDesign or within InDesign. Isabel, how are you doing?
I just had a question about the content. I remember you going over it, but I can't fully remember. Just
Okay.
do we have to use the short stories that that you shared with us?
No. So I think Gavin is doing ones that I'm actually a little unsure. Are they all ones that you've written, Gavin, or are they just different? Okay. So
No, I wanted to, but that's not gonna work out.
Yeah. So no, you don't have to use those stories.
And is it all right if they're poems, since those can be relatively shorter? Would it be better for it? Would it be okay to do that? One, and then two, if I do, should I just have more of it?
Great question. That's the only one that I'm sorry. You could. They need to be stories because we need to generate a large number of pages. And one of the things that we're trying to do is figure out how to design when we have a lot of text.
Okay.
Okay, so good question though. Now, on the other hand, let's say that you have a poem that you want to add to in addition to the stories. So you just need to have 5 stories, and then if you also want to have a poem in there or something, let's say as like a dedication page or something at the very beginning to distinguish your book, then that would be a great idea. But you have to have 5 stories.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Melanie, how about you?
I'm
Hello.
just like working on like how to adjust everything.
Uh-huh.
And I do have a question about indentation. So like for each one, the first line of each paragraph is indented because I like had that set up like before when I was like copying and pasting it.
Uh-huh.
But like how would I like go about like adjusting that like on the document?
Great question. Okay, so the first thing, and I'm going to have us experiment with this on our own, and I'm going to describe it. I want each of you to experiment with it on your own, and then probably on Wednesday you're going to have questions. And it has to do with setting up the document styles. I'm sorry, the paragraph styles, okay? So you've put your stories in and you started to play around with the look that you like. And I think that's a good way to begin. You're just going to play around and find what you like. And then the next step is to now apply that look to other stories. And since we've got a ton of text here, this is one of the reasons why I'm making you use a lot of text, is because if you don't use paragraph styles and text styles, it will take you forever. And no doubt you will have some mistakes in there. So, and if you have just a short amount of text, you can kind of get away with, you know, not using them. So, so I want us to learn paragraph styles and character styles as well. I'm only going to talk about paragraph styles right now. So on your very first paragraph that has, no, sorry, let's not do the first paragraph. Let's do not the one with diminuendo. Let's do a second paragraph. So you've decided what typeface you're using. You've decided probably to open up the tracking, let's say 5% or something. You've decided on the leading. You've decided on the typeface itself. And you've decided whether or not you're going to indent paragraphs or have space, extra space, leading between one paragraph and the other. You've made all those decisions and decided, okay, this is the way I want it to look. So what you now want to do is just simply click in the paragraph. You don't have to highlight it. In fact, it's better if you don't. So just click in the paragraph. Then you're opening up paragraph styles, and you're going to create a new paragraph. Okay? And it's going to, and you should title that new paragraph something. I like to title it story paragraph. Okay? Because you need to distinguish that kind of paragraph from the very first paragraph and possibly also from the very last paragraph. You'll also have other kinds of things, like you might have pull quotes, you might have any number of other kind of text. So we're starting with the most basic paragraph unit and set up a paragraph style. So once you've done that, then you can go to any other paragraph, click in it, and apply that style to it. So let's say that you've made the style. Now you can use that select all command, Command A, so that your entire story is selected, even though you can't see all of it. So Command A will select all of the story, and then you just click on the story text paragraph style you just made, and it will apply it to the entire story, all the paragraphs in the story. Then you would go back and apply a paragraph style for the first paragraph, which is going to be based on the other one, but you're going to have some other changes with it. And I don't want to go through that right now because it involves embedding some styles. Okay, so I want to make sure we can all do a basic paragraph style first. Okay? Those of you that have used paragraph styles in the past, I'm going to tell you what you should do on that first paragraph right now. And that is, you should create a character style called initial letter. And you should also create a character style called diminuendo. The initial letter is the size, boldness, color, or whatever of that first letter only. This is character style. And then on the rest of those words is a different character style that's perhaps small caps, bold, or whatever it is. And then you're going to create a first paragraph style based on the story paragraph style, but you're going to embed the two character styles you've already created. You have to create the character styles first. You have to create the story paragraph style first. Okay? So those of you that have worked with it in the past, you should be able to do that from me just saying that. But I would still expect we have some questions. So on Wednesday, we're going to look at that and see what kind of questions they are, or if you've sailed right through it and have no problem.
So we have to have a diminuendo?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have a diminuendo. Oh, maybe I misunderstood your question. Ask that again.
So we have to like make a diminuendo like the whole drop case thing.
You do not have to make diminuendo in the way that I illustrated it. That's just the classic version.
Okay.
Diminuendo, again, is an extension of hierarchy. So we do need to have hierarchy. So the way I described it in there is the classic version of applying it to all of those parts of the first paragraph. But if you can do it in a different way, that's fine too. There are many ways to do it.
Okay.
Any other question? Yes, I'd
I
say.
have a
Sorry, I keep having questions. So I can't remember if you said this or not last time, and I probably wrote it down and I just didn't catch that part. But did you say that the first paragraph of the story is not indented?
Correct.
Okay.
So even
How
so,
do I, if I've already created my paragraph style then, how do I, is there a way to like, because when I did that, I was like, oh shoot, now they're all indented. So is there a way to fix just so that that one is not, the first one is not?
yeah, make a different paragraph style and apply the new paragraph style. It will
Okay.
replace the older one.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
Gavin?
So how you just said the first paragraph, so the first paragraph doesn't have to be indented. If you're using like double space between the first paragraph and the next paragraph, then one doesn't have to be indented either, right?
Correct. So to indicate paragraphs, you do one of two things. You either increase the leading between the two, or you keep the same leading and indent. You don't add more leading and indent.
Okay.
Okay, so what you're doing is providing a visual clue that it's a new paragraph. That's why you don't indent the first one. It's not a new paragraph. It's the beginning of the story. And the hierarchy would be off.
Okay, all right.
You're thinking about that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Love it.
All right, I got it.
Did you also say there was a specific size that was common for the leading in between?
I didn't say that, but I'll say it. I can say a version of it now, like a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two rules of thumb that come to mind here. One is very general, and the next one's a little more specific. The first one is sans serif typefaces require more leading than the same words, same point size set in serif type. Okay, so if you choose to use a sans serif typeface for text, it needs more leading than if you were doing the same story, same point size, but using a serif typeface. So that's the general thing. And the reason is because the sans serif typeface doesn't have serifs. Those little serifs, those little feet, help to keep us reading along the same line. Well, if those are gone, then I have to do something to compensate for them being gone. And in this case, that means more leading.
Okay, so like with mine, I have a sans serif for the body, but not the title.
That's
So then I would.
That's a nice classic thing. And the title typically, no. This is what I was talking about. There is all about text.
Okay, but I'm saying like, so I would need to increase then the leading in the body of it.
In the body, yeah, but not in the title. Okay, now our
But
other.
you're okay with us doing. You're okay with us doing that, though, right?
Absolutely, that's a good plan. So we either use one typeface. I all of a sudden zoomed to no battery power. It's going to go for me here. Sorry, I had 10%. Now I have none. So it's going to go any second. So I will talk until it goes, but then I'll be gone. So what was I going to say? The general rule besides that serif sans serif thing is to increase it to the next whole even number from whatever the default is. Increasing it beyond that can be quite helpful, but certainly go to the next whole even number. That's also how you're finding the grid. That baseline grid is essential. you know, so once you've decided on the look of the general paragraph, made a grid according to it, and made a paragraph style according to that, that half your work is done.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What if, sorry, you're probably going to go, but, so so like if you have one style or one font for your title and then you have another one for your body, what about the author? Like what should that be in?
Great. So if you can categorize them by hierarchy, and you have two groups, you have display type and you have text type. So the standard rule is anything above 12 point is supposed to be display type. I hate that rule. The reason is because it you know, it doesn't apply for like a poster. It doesn't apply for a website. So don't use the point size to distinguish between display and text. Use categories. Instead, think of what is it used for? What is this type here for? If it's the story, that's text type. Anything smaller than that is also text type. On the other hand, if it's other kinds of type that is there, like a pull quote, like a title, like a byline, like a subheading, like a folio, I typically think that those should be thought of as display type. Okay, just a classic combination. If you don't use one typeface for everything and vary the fonts, the other alternative is to use sans serif for display type and serif for text type. That's the classic approach. Does it mean you can't do it differently than that? Yes, you can, but that's the classic approach.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome. Okay, so I think, I'm sorry I've been not good at looking back or responding back to those things you've uploaded to Canvas. But if you want to do that, even if it's just a page, like the first page of a story, I can respond there as well. So you could do a screenshot of the first page of your story. Oh, there I went. I think I'm going. So I'm gonna I'm gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna say goodbye. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Bye, Professor.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.